In a city gripped by fear and shadowed by violence, one man's quiet strength becomes the line between chaos and hope. Marco, a humble construction worker with a secret past, faces off against a ruthless cartel that believes he's an easy target. But when he hands them a simple note with 3 words, everything changes and a deadly game of strategy, survival, and justice unfolds. This is a story of grit, tactical genius, and the power of one determined individual to turn the tide against overwhelming odds. But before we dive in, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories reach. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss tomorrow's special video. I guarantee you won't want to miss it. Now, let's jump in. In the dust and noise of the city's outskirts, construction sites inherit their own brutal worlds. Men hammer steel, pour concrete, and fight time itself. Among them, one man works silently. His name is Marco Rivos. To the world, he's just another poor construction worker. Grease-stained gloves, worn boots, a quiet man with no family, no friends, keeps his head down, takes his lunch alone. Nobody asks him questions, and Marco never offers answers. But the city's shadows don't care about quiet men. The Los Calabras cartel, a brutal syndicate known for extortion and public executions, tightens their grip on the construction industry. They own the union's themed materials, the permits, and now they want a bigger cut from this site's project manager. When the manager pushed back, the cartel changes tactics. They look for someone weaker to send their message. They choose Marco, the enforcer, a reckless man named Hero Salas, approaches him during a lunch break. Surrounded by workers who quickly step aside, Hiro kicks over Marco's food container, smearing rice and beans into the gravel. "You new here?" Hero smirks. "You're going to carry a message for us, or you're going to carry Abercan jaw. Your choice." Marco glances at the spilled food, picks up the dented lunchbox, wipes it slowly. "Not interested," Marco says calmly. Pyro isn't used to pushback. He signals his men, and in seconds, Marco is dragging Ben to the site storage unit. They rough him up, kicks to the ribs, fists to the face, but something feels off. Marco doesn't panic. He doesn't beg. He absorbs the blows like he's somewhere else entirely. His eyes stay cold, his breathing controlled. "You get one more chance," Hero hisses. "Tomorrow, you come back. You carry our package to the bosser next time you don't get up." Marco nods. Tomorrow, Hero spits and leaves him in the dirt. What Hero doesn't know is that Marco Rivos is not what he seems. He's not a poor laborer. He's a ghost, former Tier 1 asset, ex-counterintelligence, urban warfare specialist, long retired, officially dead. The cartel has picked the wrong man. That night, Marco sits in his midiest apartment. He pulls an old dented lockbox from beneath his floorboards. Inside, a tactical watch, a weathered notebook, and a burner phone with one unsent message. Marco stares at that phone for a long time. When he finally types, the message is simple. "Activate protocol." He hits. Across the city, an encrypted signal pings to a forgotten contact. Tomorrow, Marco will return to the site, but not to deliver a package. Tomorrow, he will hand them a note. 3 words that will dismantle their world. Morning fog lingers over the site as Marco Rivos walks in like nothing happened. His gait is steady, his expression unreadable. The same dirt-caked boots, the same grease-stained gloves. But today, every step is calculated. Hero Alice waits by the equipment shed with 2 cartel foot soldiers, all grinning like hyenas. They expect submission. They expect fear. "Glad you came to your senses, old man," Hero calls out, tossing a small taped package toward Marco's chest. "Take these though, the project manager. Tell him it's his last warning." Marco catches it without breaking stride. He looks at the package. Simple, small, likely a message wrapped around a hollow point. "Understood," Marco says. But his voice carries a weight Hiro doesn't register. Instead of heading straight to the project manager's trailer, Marco takes a detour through the site's labyrinth of steel beams and concrete walls. Moving with purpose, he stops briefly at his workbench, pulls a scrap of folded paper from his pocket, and writes 3 precise words. He slides the note into the package, replacing whatever waste originally inside. He seals it carefully, folding the edges in exactly as they were. When he delivers the package to the project manager, the man's hands shake. He knows what happens to people who refuse Los Calibres. Open it, Marco instructs. The manager hesitates, then tears the tape. Inside, instead of the usual bullet or crude thread, there's just the folded note. 3 words. The manager reads Damalud, puzzled. Protocol is active. Marco locks eyes with him. Leave now. Don't come back today. Not until you hear from me again. The manager doesn't ask questions. Something in Marco's tone leaves no room for doubt. Minutes later, hero spotters report that the package was delivered. Satisfied, Hero and his men retreat to a nearby bar they control, expecting to hear that the project manager is folding under pressure. Instead, something else happens. Across the city, a dormant surveillance network flickers to life. Phones that haven't rung in years light up with encrypted messages. Old teammates, ghosts like Marco, receive same signal. Protocol is active. One by one, they respond. Ramirez, position acquired. Ready to assist. Gwen, eyes on feeds clean. No cartel tails. Bishop, tools inbound. Old tricks. Same game. These aren't soldiers. They're architects of urban warfare. Specialist wove melted into civilian lives, waiting for a reason to resurface. Back at the bar, Hero receives a text from an unknown number. No name, no trace, just a photo. Him this morning arriving at site. The angle is high, clean, tactical. Hero's grin falters. His phone booses again. A second photo. His car, parked outside. GPS coordinate Tevrate. Accurate to the inch. Hero's face hardens. Who's playing games? Marco is playing games. Carefilicosan games where every move is already accounted for. The chessboard is open now, and Hiro doesn't even know which pieces he's lost. Shadows begin to shift. Routes are mapped. Contingencies unfold. The next move belongs to Marco. Hiro's nerves start to fray. He orders his men to sweep the site, search the vehicles, and check for planted bugs. They find nothing. Whoever's watching them is surgical. Clean entries, clean exits, no digital fingerprints, no obvious tails for a cartel used to blunt force. This ice and familiar ground. Hero reports the situation to his boss, Diego Serrano. Kia, a mid-level commander in Los Calibres, known for his short temper and longer memory. Handle it? Serrano growls. If this worker's playing spy games, break him open publicly. Hero nods, but his gut whisks. Something is off. Meanwhile, Marco sits in his apartment, sipping black coffee, studying the maps spread across his table. The apartment is small but meticulously organized. Every drawer, every corner serves a purpose. He reviews site blueprints, traffic patterns, cartel supply routes, old intel stitched together with new details. His burner phone buzzes. Gwen's talent overlays clean. Port access is viable. Enemy predictable. Ramirez, local backup ready. Civilians willing to assist. Bishop, delivery made. Toys and locker 7B. Standard package plus favors. Marco's team has activated quietly surgically. No uniforms, no obvious signatures. Just tradesmen, janitors, electricians. People no one notices, but people Marco trained himself. The city's waking up to his game. Marco leaves his apartment, taking back alley routes, never traveling the same path twice. He reaches a self-storage unit. Inside, his old gear awaits. Tactical vest, comes rig, breaching tools, carefully wrapped weapons. Nothing flashy, just reliable instruments of problem solving. In a small crate, Bishop's delivery sits waiting. Inside, EMP grenades, signal jammers, and a custom foldable drone disguised as construction equipment. Practical tools for urban chess. Marco checks everything. His mind is calm, his breathing steady. Every movement is deliberate. Hero, growing impatient, orders Marco abducted. This time, they send 4 men, but Marco isn't walking blind today. As he exits a hardware store, they close in. 2 from the front, 2 from the rear. Standard cartel formation. Fast, aggressive, assuming the target will panic. Marco docent, he subtly triggers a device in his pocket. A brief, almost invisibly MP pulse fries the cartel's comms and disables nearby surveillance feeds. The first attacker lunges with a baton. Marco pivots, trapping the man's arm and dislocating his shoulder in a clean motion. No wasted effort. The second swings wide. Marco intercepts with a knee to the ribs, using the momentum to hove him into oncoming traffic. Tires screech. The man rolls onto the pavement, groaning, the last to hesitate. But that's all Marco needs. He grabs a bag of hardware nails from his shopping bag and flings it across the sidewalk. A crude, improvised scatter tactic. The attackers slip, losing balance. Marco sweeps one's legs and steps on his throat. Just enough pressure to knock him out without clinging him. The 4th man scrambles away, pulling out his phone. Dead screen, fried by the EMP, he runs. Marco lets him. He knows the message will reach Hiro soon enough. This man is not afraid, and he's not alone. Marco walks away, vanishing into the city's arteries. The board is set. The cartel still believes they're chasing a construction worker, but the pieces are moving, and Marco is already 3 moves ahead. The surviving attacker stumbles into Hiro's bar, bleeding and gasping. His story is fragmented. Nails in the ground. Comms blackout. The cold precision of a man who didn't miss a step. Hiro crushes his glass against the floor. Get out of my sight. He needs answers. He needs leverage. And most of all, he needs Torius to blish control. Meanwhile, Marco moves quietly through the industrial districts, deploying small devices and onto electrical boxes and rooftops. Low-profile cameras, frequency relays, and RF scanners disguised as trash. Each placement connects to Nguyen's improvised surveillance network. From a small, abandoned workshop converted into a tactical HQ, Marco's team begins feeding him live data. One's voice cuts in over the comms. We have chatter. Cartels pushing to find your address. Fast. They're panicked. Good. Let them come, Marco replies. Eyes scanning the live feeds. They need to think I'm defending home turf. Ramirez chimes in. Just say the word. Locals are ready. They've been under the cartel's boot too long. Marco hesitates. It's not yet. We use them ladderware. It counts. He's not interested in bravado. He's building a pressure cooker. 1 layer at a time. Hero shifts tactics. He tracks down Alina Vasquez, a waitress who occasionally chats with Marco on lunch breaks. She's one of that few people who's shown him small kindnesses, sharing extra coffee, soft conversation, never prying. Hero has her grabbed outside her apartment. Alina is dragged to a secluded warehouse. Pyrolians, in his voice, venomous. Your friend's been making waves. We want him to see what happens when quiet people get too loud. He has a live stream prepared. An untraceable signal set to broadcast directly to Marco's burner phone. But the moment Hiro's tech hooks in, his tablet screen flickers, briefly hijacked by Nguyen's encryption layer. Coordinates, timestamps, and the names of Hiro's shell companies flash across the screen for half a second before logging out. Pyro curses, realizing someone's been inside his network 4 hours. Then the warehouse doors crack open. Ramirez and Bishop step in, casual, confident. Pyro's men raise their weapons. Ramirez smirks. You really should sweep for secondary entry points. Bishop taps his earpiece. Marco, Your friends secure. Clean retrieval. Minimal noise. Marcos.com voice answers. Copy that. Move her to fallback point. Bravo. Alina is rushed out as Jairo's men scramble to react. Ramirez hurls a flashbang over a crate, a concussive detonation that shatters glass and disorients the gunman. The extraction is swift, precise. Marco's team leaves no trace. Pyro's fury boils over. Find me that ghost, but every lead slips through his fingers. The surveillance web tightens. Marco's eyes are everywhere. Routes are mapped, escape paths charted. Every cartel move now feeds directly into his counterplans. He isn't reacting. He's orchestrating. The cartel doesn't know it yet, but the next play is already in motion and it's going to hurt. Las Calabras shifts to desperation. Pyro deploys strike teams across the city. Bigger groups, heavier weapons, faster tempo. They stop playing subtle. They want Marco cornered. But Marco doesn't belly in corners. He knows the city better than they do. He studied its arteries, pressure points, and blind spots. He doesn't run from them. He runs through them. His next step isn't to hide, it's to hit. From the tactical HQ, Marco pulls up a rotating schematic of the cartel's logistics hub, a scrapyard serving as an unofficial weapons depot. Intel from Gwen and Bishop confirms Ethold's crates of assault rifles, cash drops, and encrypted documents. It's a soft target, but symbolically important. Destroying it sends a clear signal. Marco briefs the team in tight, deliberate sentences. Gwen will jam external comms for a 5-minute window. Ramirez takes north entry. Bishop vandals the southern flank. We are not here to die heroes. We're here to cut arteries and walk away clean. They move it. Dusk. Marco leads Ramirez through the north fence, slipping past low-visibility patrols. Bishop positions more directional charges along the south wall. Enough to blow, but not enough to draw immediate city-witty attention. The team operates like a scalpel, not a hammer. Nguyen's voice crackles in. All signals dark. 5-minute window starts now. Marco's team breaches fast, subdued takedowns, muffled shots, razor precision. Marco disables the first 2 guards, using zip ties and a tactical choke that puts them down quietly. They move to the supply crates, planting thermite charges with magnetic clamps. One by one, the cartel's weapon stockpile is set to burn. But Marco isn't done. He locates the office shack, the nerve center, where paper trails hide. Inside, he finds shipping manifests, payment ledgers, and a list of names. Politicians, police officers, city contractors, all feeding from Thiesen's corrupt hand. Perfect. He scans everything into system. Then he plants a final message on the desk. 3 words scrawled in sharp ink. I see you. Ramirez lights the thermite. Bishop triggers the southern charges, creating a controlled breach for exfiltration. The scrapyard erupts into a roar of fire and collapsing metal. As Marco's team retreats through shadowed streets, cartel vehicles scream toward the scene, too late to salvage anything. Pyroives, seething among the debris. His men recover the note. 3 words, no signature, but the message is deafening. Jairo's calls for backup spiral into silence as Nguyen's jammers cut his outgoing signals for the second time. In that brief window, Jairo is isolated, untouchable, and forced to taste the same suffocating helplessness his victims have endured for years. Back at THQ, Marco updates the board. 1 depot down, 1 cartel cell to stabilize. Their patterns are becoming predictable. Ramirez, Bishop, tomorrow we split. Multiple strikes. Different corners of the city. Keep the pressure. Keep them guessing. The team agrees with the hesitation. This is where they live. In the margins, in the pressure, in the hunt. And for Marco, the mission is no longer about survival. It's about dismantling the machine piece by piece. 1 clean tactical cut at a time. Hero's composure fractures. The scrapyard's destruction ripples through Los Calabras like a detonation no one saw coming. Overnight, supply lines freeze. Street-level enforcers scramble without fresh weapons. Money doesn't flow where it should. The cartel's leadership begins to question Hyro's grip on the situation. But Marco isn't after Hero's rank. He's after the structure. No one's network, no feeds, Marco real-time cartel movements. Every vehicle, every meeting, every hastily shifted asset is tracked and logged. Marco doesn't react to them. Heshapies them. From his tactical HQ, he maps a sequence of calculated strikes. Each one is small, surgical, designed not to collapse the cartel at once, but to exhaust it, choke the roots, corrupt their timing, their momentum. Ramirez and Bishop split as planned. Ramirez's task: hit a cartel career route disguised as a construction supply chain. Bishop's task: intercept a payoff meeting between the cartel and a dirty city inspector. Marco's task: remain invisible and keep the board in balance. Nguyen's voice cuts into the comms. Ramirez has eyes on the convoy, moving slow. They're nervous. Good, Marco replies. Custom. Ramirez stages an improvised roadblock with a broken-down truck, forcing the convoy to bottleneck under an overpass. As locals, disguised as road workers, corral the vehicles with traffic cones and construction barriers. When the lead truck driver steps out to inspect, Ramirez moves with brutal precision, neutralizing that driver and disabling the secondary truck's engine with a single, well-placed shot to the radiator. He confiscates the poaches, cartel weapons disguised as concrete sealant. He tags the trucks with Marco's new calling card. Anna Thurnet, left behind. 3 words. Watch your steps. Meanwhile, Bishop shadows the payoff meeting in an underground parking garage. He monitors from a nearby van. The drone Marco provided news circling silently overhead. Bishop's timing is razor sharp. The moment Kish changes hands, he triggers a controlled blackout in the garage. Temporary, but long enough to descend like a ghost. By the time lights return, the inspector's briefcase is gone. His security detail is unconscious. The cash now in Marco's hands. Inside the briefcase, Bishop leaves the familiar note. I see you. Gwen watches the digital fallout unfold as cartel lieutenants scramble to reposition assets. Panic starts to spread. Their routines no longer hold. Their safe spaces collapse under invisible pressure. Hyro receives tour ports within minutes. His courier, route compromised. His city inspector robbed and humiliated. In both incidents, tied to the same phantom message. Hyro's paranoia surges. This isn't random, he mutters, pacing his office. It's coordinated. It's tactical. And he's still breathing BKs. He's not afraid of dying. He slams his fist on the table. Enough. We hit back full force. He orders a blitz operation. Storm Marco's apartment. Burn it down. Trap him inside if possible. But Marco has already anticipated this move. When the cartel team breaches the door, they find the place stripped bare. No weapons. No documents. Only one thing remains. Pinned to the empty wall. In note, 3 words. Wrong apartment. Hero. In that moment, Hyro realizes this is no longer a war he can win by numbers. This is a war of patience, of positioning, and Marco Rivos is still 3 moves ahead. Hero's rage boils past strategy. He doesn't want to trap Marco anymore. He wants to crush him. He orders full-scale sweeps of known sympathizers, seizes control of streets, leans harder on the unions and workers, hoping to smoke Marco out. But this isn't a man who caves under pressure. Marco watches it unfold from the tactical HQ. His expression, calm, methodical. The cartel is overextending, moving too fast, overcompensating. Nguyen's voice comes through the comms. Cartel is tightening security at their financial hub. A lot of muscle moving there, off-books ledgers. Marco studies the schematic. Nguyen sends over a low-profile warehouse at the docks, posing as a shipping company. That's Theon, Marco says. That's the artery we cut next. But he's not after the money. He sapped her the message. Before the team mobilizes, Marco makes a rare call to Elena Vasquez. She's in hiding now under Ramirez's watch. Marco speaks plainly, but his words carry weight. You're part of this now. You know too much. You can walk away. I'll get you out clean. Elena's answer is quick, without hesitation. You're cleaning the city. That's not something I'll walk away from. Marco respects that. He gives her a secondary task. Distribute small care packages to local workers, each with burner phones that can receive encrypted broadcasts. The locals will know what's coming and when to move. The strike on the financial hub begins at dawn. Gwen runs cyber interference. Delaying the cartel's internal comes by flooding their frequencies with ghost traffic. Ramirez and Bishop approach from opposite angles, disguised as dock workers. Marco moves directly, walking in under the open cover of daylight. The warehouse guards don't recognize him immediately. He's just another man in a high-visibility vest, clipboard in hand, carrying nothing but a small tool bag. By the time they question him, Marco is already too close. With sharp, controlled violence, he subdues the nearest guard, pulling him into a choke and using his body to absorb the incoming shots from his partner. Ramirez breaches from the rear with a suppressed shotgun, dropping 2 more guards before they can call for help. Bishop deploys a portable jammer, shutting down nearby security cameras and isolating the building's comms. Inside, Marco locates shipping containers holding the cartel's ledgers and backup drives. He doesn't burn them. He copies everything, every transaction, every offshore link, every dirty cop and complicit politician. This is not about hurting the cartel's wallet. It's about owning their secrets. Before leaving, Marco plants his signature. 3 words, Bernardino. The container steel wall with a portable torch. I own you. As the team exfiltrates clean, the dock's workers armed with Marco's burner phones begin broadcasting images of the cartel's exposed ledgers to public channels, anonymous accounts, and union leaders. Within hours, Los Calibres finds its sound secrets flooding the streets. Jairo's world fractures. Police pressure increases. Allies begin to back away. The cartel's carefully built walls are crumbling, and Marco never fired a shot at the leadership. He just made the walls disappear. Hero pounds his desk until it splinters. This ends now. Fend his team. Find a girl. I want every street burning. But Marco is already waiting for this overreach. The next move isn't his. It's the one he's forcing Jairo to make. The streets of the city change overnight. Los Calibres, once untouchable, now looks cornered. Their safe houses are compromised, their payments exposed. Their allies, police, inspectors, even minor politicians startled disappear from public view, choosing to distance themselves before the fallout consumes them. But Hero doesn't back down. He pushes harder, searching for any crack in Marco's network. He forces his men to shake down dock workers, chase down contacts, pressure families. And that's exactly what Marco wants. He's forcing Hero into a pattern, a sloppy, aggressive one. When an opponent starts moving faster than they can think, they stop seeing the traps. Gwen tracks one of Jairo's scout teams following Elena Vasquez's cousin, a teenage boy who sometimes ran messages at the site. They think the boy is a weak link. Gwen patches into the live drone feed. Cartels hunting the kid. They're bringing 3 vehicles. I count 6 armed. Marco's voice is sharp. Ramirez, intercept team at Sector Delta. Bishop, deploy counter-route blockers. No civilians in the crossfire. We cut this off clean. Ramirez peels out from an adjacent alley in a battered sedan, ramming the lead cartel SUV hard into a row of steel barriers. Bishop drops spike strips from a pedestrian overpass, shredding the tires of the trailing vehicle. The cartel's convoy collapses in seconds. Marco arrives just as Ramirez neutralizes the last standing gunman. He steps into the center of the chaos, calm and deliberate, walking directly toward the pinned cartel driver who gave the order to follow the boy. Marco asks, voice low. The driver stammers, bleeding eyes start darting it. It was Hero, he said. Grab the kid, use him to bait you. Marco nods. Thank you. He knocks the man out with the butt of his sidearm. There's no rage, just cold, tactical finality. He calls Alina personally. They're escalating. You need to move now. Take the fallback route to Safe House 3. Elena's voice is firm. We're already moving. Locals are watching the streets. They're not afraid of the cartel anymore, and that's what matters. The city is turning. The people, once paralyzed by fear, are starting to choose sides. Hero, sensing control slipping, makes a desperate move, heckles for Diego Serrano, the higher-ranking cartel boss, to intervene personally. Bring the firepower. Hero pleads over a secure line. This ghost is bleeding us out. Serrano agrees, but Nato help Hero. He comes to take over. In less than 12 hours, Serrano arrives with a private convoy flanked by heavily armed specialists. His entrance is swift and brutal. He strips Hero of his command in front of his men. You've made this personal, Serrano growls. I don't care about your bruised ego. I care about control. We find him. We erase him. We end this. But Sarah now just does one thing. Marco isn't just surviving. He's controlling the tempo. From his tactical HQ, Mark updates his board. New enemy assets, new formations, new weaknesses. Gwen flags Serrano's convoy. I want every vehicle tagged. Ramirez, get me infiltration rights on Serrano's primary base. Copy that, Ramirez replies. But that base is fortified. No easy doors. Marco allows himself a rare, sharp grin. We're noticing the doors. We're pulling the floor out from under them. The trap is already forming. Hero and Serrano think they're leading the hunt, but they're moving exactly where Marco wants them to go. Serrano's arrival shifts the balance offer, but also seals his fate. His command style is brutal, but predictable. Heavy-handed raids, indiscriminate violence, and ruthless intimidation. Marco watches this with clinical detachment. Every overreaction, every blunder is a piece of intelligence. Inside the tactical HQ, the air hums with tension. Marco's team, Gwen, Ramirez, Bishop, monitor, feeds, chatter, and movement. Gwen announces Serrano's convoy spotted near the industrial complex on the east side. They're resting, refueling. Security ice-light, but standard. They're confident. Marco's eyes narrow. Good. We need them confident. He pulls up a 3D layout of the complex, a sprawling warehouse with multiple entry points, underground parking, and a perimeter fence wired with motion sensors. Marco's plan is not a direct assault. It's precision collapse. Bishop, plant the EMP charges on the main power grid and come tower. Ramirez, your job is to secure the eastern perimeter with local support. Gwen, you control the electronic battle D. We black out their eyes and ears before we move. As night falls, the operation begins. First, Nguyen floods all electronic signals around the warehouse, jamming radios, drones, and cell phones. The cartel loses contact with reinforcements. Bishop slips in undetected, planting silent EMP charges at key infrastructure points. Each charge is set with a timed detonation sequence, synchronized to cut power and disable surveillance simultaneously. Ramirez, backed by trusted locals, takes strategic positions at access points and roadblocks, funneling any escaping cartel members toward pre-planned kill zones. Marco waits for the blackout, seconds away now. When the EMPs detonate, the warehouse plunges into darkness. Motion sensors and cameras got dead. The only sound is the distant hum of generators and the soft footsteps off the team moving in. Inside, Marco moves with surgical precision. His TM Disables guards silently. Uses comes rerouted through secure channels. Plants tracking devices on Serrano's vehicles. The cartel scrambles in confusion, blinded and disconnected. Marco finds Serrano's office barricaded, but vulnerable. Using a compact breaching tool, he gains entry. Serrano, caught off guard but defiant, pulls a pistol. Marco's voice is cold. You wanted control? Now you've lost it. In seconds, the confrontation is over. Serrano is incapacitated, bound, viewed alive. Before leaving, Marco places one final note on Serrano's desk. 3 words. Game over, boss. Outside, the cartel's remaining forces are rounded up or routed. The locals rise quietly, reclaiming their streets. Hero, humiliated and stripped of power, goes into hiding. Marco watches from the shadows, the city slowly returning to fragile peace. But the game is never truly over. The message has been sent, and the note with 3 words has changed everything. The capture of Diego Serrano sent shockwaves through the cartel's fractured network. Los Calibres, once a monolithic force that ruled the city's underworld with iron fists, is now a splintered beast, struggling to hold on to scraps of power. The news leaks quickly, some from anonymous sources, others from the very documents Marco's team leaked to union leaders, journalists, and underground channels. The city starts to whisper about the fall of the cartel's domens, and the streets breathe a little freer. But Marco knows better than to let his guard down. The fight isn't over. Hero Solales, humiliated and stripped of his command, has venecido the city's underbelly. He's nursing his wounds and plotting his comeback, fueled by bitterness and rage. Smalsels, loyal to Serrano and Hiro, begin jockeying for power, trying to fill the vacuum left behind. Violence spikes in certain neighborhoods as factions clash, but none have the cohesion or strategy that Marco's team commands. In a discreet, fortified safe house, Marco gathers with his trusted team. The atmosphere is tense but focused. Maps, intel reports, and encrypted comms fill the room. Gwen speaks first, her voice steady over the hum of equipment. We're seeing an uptick in cartel faction activity near the industrial district. Small arms, heightened run tactics. Also intercepted chatter about fresh shipments coming through the docks, possibly weapons or cash. Ramirez leans forward, clenching his fists. We took the head off the snake, but the body's still thrashing. These factions are dangerous, reckless, desperate, and unpredictable. Marco nods slowly, his eyes scanning the digital maps. We've dismantled their command, but we haven't eliminated the threat. The cartel's shadow is long, and their network runs deep. We must stay several steps ahead. He looks toward Alina, now an integral part of their operations. Once just a waitress who showed kindness, she's become a linchpin in their grassroots-owned Tintalents network. Trusted by locals who once feared speaking out, the community is our greatest asset, Marco says. Without their eyes and voices, this fight becomes impossible. We protect them. We empower them. The team shifts focus to rebuilding trust in the neighborhoods long silenced by fear. They organize discreet meetings, share information safely, and distribute burner phones capable of receiving encrypted alerts. It's slow work, but essential to prevent the cartel's resurgence. Marco pulls out his battered notebook and writes in bold letters across a fresh page. Stay ready, always. He closes the notebook and addresses the team directly. We don't stop because we want to battle. We stop only when it's truly safe. Until then, we watch, we ward, and we protect. We carry this responsibility for those who can't. The room falls silent, a mutual understanding settling over them. Outside, the city's pulse steadies, but beneath its surface, vigilance remains unyielding. For Marco and his team, this is more than a mission. It's a promise. The war for the city's soul continues. Despite the heavy blows Calabar suffered, the cartel refuses to fade away quietly. Instead, it splinters into ruthless factions, each operating gently, testing the limits of Marco's network with sudden violent strikes, ambushes in back alleys, kidnappings of key local figures, and fierce turf wars begin cropping up unpredictably across the city. TheFragile.com that had started to settle quickly shatters, replaced by an undercurrent of fear and chaos. Marcus studies these flickers of violence like a seasoned tactician watching enemy scouts. Each attack, each provocation, is a deliberate message, an attempt to probe weaknesses, find cracks in his carefully constructed defenses. His team responds with precision and speed. They isolate threats, neutralize dangers, and protect the innocent caught in the crossfire. Every move is coordinated, every resource allocated with surgical accuracy. Winds, fingers fly over keyboards, monitoring intercepted cartel communications. Among the coded chatter, a new name emerges: El Tiburon the Shark, rumored to be a ruthless and cunning leader rising within the cartel's fractured ranks. Marco hasn't met this man yet, but the menace in his reputation is unmistakable. This new player could change everything. Meanwhile, Elena deepens her grassroots efforts. She's no longer just a kind-hearted waitress. She's become a trusted figure in the community, an essential part of the intelligence network Marco relies on. Her ability to connect with wary locals brings invaluable information that no satellite or drone could capture. Slowly, the people who once lived in fear began to speak up. They understand that the quiet construction worker, underestimated by many, is actually their shield. In the shadows, Hero Salalis nurses his wounds, humiliated but not defeated. He reaches out to El Tiburon with a desperate offer of alliance, a chance to reclaim power by joining forces to crush Marco and his team. Marco anticipates this move and orders Ramirez and Bishop Tostranthon surveillance in known cartel hotspots to cut off supply routes and to prepare ambushes that will neutralize any attempt to regroup. Every encounter escalates the stakes. Marco's tactical pittance is stretched thin as he balances striking hard with the need to protect innocent lives. One misstep could undo months of progress, alienate the community, or tip the scales back in the cartel's favor. The city becomes a chessboard, painted in shadows and danger. But Marco's hand remains steady. He knows the storm is gathering, and when it breaks, it will test everything he has built and everything he is. The city's pulse quickens, echoing the mounting tension in every alley and avenue. The uneasy calm that had settled after Serrano's capture shatters under the weight of a new, deadlier threat. The alliance between Hero Salalis and the enigmatic figure known only as El Tiburon, the Shark, is proving catastrophic. What was once a fractured cartel now regroups with fresh blood, brutal tactics, and ruthless ambition. El Tiburon is no ordinary leader. His reputation is built on unpredictability, cold precision. Where Hero relied on brute force and intimidation, El Tiburon blends strategic cunning with violent efficiency. Neighborhoods once peaceful now find themselves battlegrounds, caught in the crossfire of cartel factions vying for dominance. Marco watches the escalation with a soldier's calm and a tactician's sharp eye. His team operates like a well-oiled machine, shifting fluidly through the city's veins to gather intelligence and strike decisively. Local informants, workers, shopkeepers, and one silent residents feed the network with whisper-soothed warnings. Elena's grassroots work blossoms into a vital intelligence web, stitching together community trust with razor-thin lines of communication. Her ability to read people and foster loyalty brings Marco's team eyes and ears where technology cannot reach. One's fingers dance over keyboards, decoding encrypted messages and disrupting cartel comes. Her cyber interference creates chaos in enemy ranks, scrambling their ability to coordinate. Ramirez commands mobile strike teams, quick, brutal, and efficient, hitting supply caches and convoy routes before the cartel can move at their assets. Bishop deploys advanced surveillance drones that hover silently above, mapping enemy positions and feeding real-time data back to HQ. Despite these efforts, the cartel grows bolder. A particularly vicious raid on a medical clinic used as a safe haven by Marco's allies sends shockwaves through the team. The clinic, meant to be a sanctuary, is attacked with reckless disregard for civilian safety. The aftermath leaves scars, physical wounds, shattered morale, but also steels Thades' resolve. In the tactical HQ, the atmosphere is charged, but focused. A new map flickers to life on the central screen, highlighting the old industrial district where El Tiburon's forces are reconsolidating power. Marco studies the layout, tracing supply lines, entry points, and potential ambush sites. His voice is low, steady, commanding. This is where the next move will be made. We need to be ready. Ramirez leans in, tension sharpening his features. No room for error. We can't afford mistakes. Marco meets his gaze. We won't make any. The team begins preparing strategic deployments, reinforcement planning, evacuation routes for civilians caught in a crossfire. Every contingency is mapped, every scenario rehearsed. Outside the HQ, the city braces itself. The storm is rising for Marco and his team. The battle is no longer just tactical skirmishes in shadows. It's a full-scale urban war about to explode, and the stakes have never been higher. The next confrontation won't just disrupt control of the streets. It will determine the fate of everyone trapped in the relentless grind of this war. As first light of dawn creeps over the horizon, a heavy tension blankets the city. The air feels charged, like Deckham moments before a tempest breaks loose. Marco's team moves with the disciplined precision of a well-trained unit. Every member is hyper-focused, knowing exactly what's at stake. It isn't a firefight born of chaos. It's a calculated strike meant to unravel the heart of the cartel's resurgence. Alina works feverishly with local volunteers, organizing evacuation routes and safe zones for civilians near the industrial district, areas likely to become bleak grants. The faces of these residents have shifted from fearful to resolute, embodying a quiet defiance. The community is no longer passive. They're active participants in reclaiming their city. At Tactical HQ, Gwen has already disabled the surveillance grids and communication towers surrounding the target area. The cartel's forces are effectively blinded and deafened, cut off from the critical information that once allowed them to coordinate with deadly efficiency. Without their eyes and ears, they become vulnerable. Ramirez and Bishop lead to separate strike teams, infiltrating through back alleys, underground tunnels, and forgotten passages. Their target supply, caches, weapons depots, makeshift armies scattered through this industrial zone. Each strike is surgical and swift. Explosions are minimized to avoid civilian casualties, and enemy combatants are taken down quickly, their options limited. Marco remains patient, watching live feeds streaming into HQ, analyzing enemy troop movements and adapting plans on the fly. The dance is intricate, a game of chess played in real time with lives on the line. Suddenly, an explosion detonates near the northern perimeter, a controlled chaos engineered by Ramirez's team. This diversion forces the cartel's guards to divert significant manpower and attention to the disturbance, pulling reinforcements away from key command locations. Seizing the opening, Marco and Bishop lead their units towards Central Warehouse, believed to be El Tiburon's operational base. The tension speaks. Guards patrol more aggressively. Tripwires and alarms are carefully muted, and the environment reeks of anticipation. Inside, the teams advance silently but swiftly. Each encounter is met with precise, measured force. Non-lethal incapacitations, when possible, avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Quick neutralizations when resistance becomes lethal. The goal is to extract intelligence and destabilize the command structure, not to wage a slaughter. Finally, Marco reaches the innermost tumor, the command post where El Tiburon directs his fractured empire, but the room is empty. Instead, a taunting note rests on the desk, scrolled in bold, deliberate letters. Not today, Marco. A cold, sharp smile crosses Marco's lips. The ghost he hunts is alive, agile, and confident. El Tiburon is not just a leader. He is a master provocateur, always one step ahead, daring Marco to follow. Marco folds the note carefully, tucking it into his pocket. He knows the coming days will test every ounce of his endurance, strategy, and willpower. The fight is escalating beyond tactical skirmishes. It is a war of attrition, deception, and nerves. Outside, the city waits. Innocence caught in the balance. Neighborhoods bracing for what's next. For Marco and his team. Today, the mission has entered a new perilous phase where one wrong move could cost them everything. The battle for the city's soul is far from over. The note left by El Tiburon West, just a taunt. It was a signal. The cartel unleashed its fury on the city like a storm breaking after a long drought. The streets of Las Calabras turned into battlegrounds overnight. Stained with smoke, fear, and blood. Burned-out vehicles clogged main roads. Barricades made from twisted metal and burning tires blocked traffic. And buildings, once quiet, were rocked by explosions that echoed through the neighborhoods. Kidnappings became my place. Targets were no longer just rival gang members or Marco's allies, but local community leaders, shop owners, even mothers and fathers who dared to resist the cartel's rule. Each loss weighed heavily on Marco. Every name added to the list was a reminder of what was at stake. But even as the city convulsed under this onslaught, Marco's resolve hardened. The fight was no longer about strategy alone. It was a test of endurance, leadership, and protecting the innocent caught in the crossfire. The tactical HQ buzzed with urgency. Ramirez was in charge of organizing rapid response squads, elite teams trained to react to sudden cartel violence with swift, precise action. His squads moved like shadows, intercepting kidnappers, securing escape routes, and safeguarding critical community hubs. Bishop stationed snipers and spotters atop the tallest buildings overlooking the city. From their vantage points, they tracked cartel movements, relaying intel that kept Marco's team one step ahead. Their eyes in the sky became a lifeline, feeding real-time updates to Nguyen's Cyber Operations Center. Nguyen's fingers flew across her keyboard, flooding cartel communication channels with false signals, jamming radios, and scrambling frequencies. The cartel's once coordinated strikes descended into chaos and miscommunication, giving Marco's team precious seconds that often meant the difference between life and death. Meanwhile, Elena's grassroots network blossomed into a vital lifeline for the neighborhoods. Her team coordinated safe houses, established urgency alert systems via burner phones, and organized local patrols. Where fear once reigned, courage began to take root. Neighborhoods that had lived under the cartel shadow for years now raised barricades and kept vigilant watch through the darkest hours. The pulse of the city quickened, a blend of terror and fierce determination. The people were fighting back in small but significant ways. Amid this chaos, Marco focused on a bold, decisive plan. Dismantle El Tiburon's supply chain once and for all. Intelligence gathered by Nguyen and Elena pinpointed a heavily guarded convoy moving through the outskirts, carrying weapons and cash vital to the cartel's operations. The convoy was a fortress on wheels, armored vehicles, armed guards, and electronic countermeasures. The risk was enormous, but the potential payoff even greater. The night before the strike, Marco gathered his team in the dimly lit HQ. He pulled out a scrap of cardboard, scribbled 3 words with deliberate care, and slipped it into his jacket pocket. Looking at each of them, his voice steady and resolute, he said, "This ends now." Each member felt the weight of those words. The city was on edge, waiting. The battle had escalated beyond tactical strikes. It was now a fight for the soul of Las Calabras. As dawn approached, Marco's team readied themselves for what could be the turning point of the war. Under the cover of a moonless night, the city holds its breath. Marco's team moved silently through the shadows, their nervous taut, but their focus razor sharp. This is no ordinary mission. This is the culmination of months of strategy, sacrifice, and grit. The heavily guarded cartel convoy, transporting arms and cash, crucial to El Tiburón's appearance, is their target. Failure here isn't just a setback. It could mean losing the fragile momentum they fought so hard to gain. Ramirez stands over a digital map in the tactical HQ, coordinating the assault teams deployed along the winding highway where the convoy is expected. Two teams are positioned on opposite sides of the road, hidden behind rock outcrops and dense foliage. Bishop and Alina oversee overwatch positions. Bishop with his sniper rifle nestled high in a weathered radio tower, and Alina coordinates execution points to ensure civilian safety in the surrounding areas. Nguyen's role is critical. From her command station, she floods the convoy's radio frequencies with static and false chatter, severing communication lines and preventing any call for reinforcements. The cartel's usual advantage, superior coordination and backup, is effectively neutralized. As the convoy creeps toward the kill zone, tension mounts. The lead armored vehicle glints faintly under moonlight, its gun turrets rotating vigilantly. Armed guards peered nervously through slits, eyes scanning the darkened roadside. Marco watches through a tactical feed, waiting for the perfect moment. His voice is calm but authoritative. Now, Ramirez triggers the deployment of spike strips across the highway. The tires of the first two vehicles shred instantly, grinding metal on asphalt and forcing the convoy to a sudden, jerking halt. Panic erupts inside the convoy. Guards jump from vehicles, weapons drawn, shouting orders that go unanswered over the jammed radios. Marco's team moves swiftly and decisively. Silent takedowns neutralize isolated guards before alarms can be raised. Others are overwhelmed with precise, non-lethal force to minimize casualties and prevent collateral damage. The firefight escalates quickly. Bishop's sniper rounds take out distant shooters, trying to flank the assault teams, while Alina relays intel on approaching civilian vehicles, ensuring safe evacuation routes. Amid the chaos, Marco bridges lead vehicle. Inside, he discovers crates marked with El Tiburón's insignia. Weapon shipments destined to fuel the cartel's next wave of attacks. More importantly, tucked in a reinforced state is a bundle of documents detailing upcoming operations, alliances, and supply lines. His pulse steady, Marco scans the information, absorbing details that could shift the balance of power. The ambush ends swiftly. The convoy is dismantled, supplies seized, and cartel operatives either captured or incapacitated. But victory tastes bittersweet. Marco knows El Tiburón will respond, likely with greater ferocity and cunning. The city's fragile hope rests on their ability to anticipate the next move. As dawn breaks over the scarred highway, Marco gathers his team. The road ahead is uncertain, and the war far from over. Yet beneath exhaustion, there's a fierce resolve. They will fight strategically, relentlessly, for every inch of their city. The ambush on the convoy has struck a severe blow to El Tiburón's operations. But Marco knew better than to think the war was over. The documents they'd seized revealed a chilling truth. The cartel's plans for a large-scale retaliation were already in motion. Their intent was clear: launch a brutal assault designed to crush the city's resistance once and for all. Claim the territories lost in the recent strikes. Back at the tactical HQ, the atmosphere was intense but focused. Marco gathered his closest allies, Ramirez, Bishop, Gwen, and Alina, for an urgent briefing. Ramirez and Bishop sharpened their tactical plans, reviewing maps of the cartel's Central Command bunker, a fortress deep in the city's abandoned industrial sector. It was heavily fortified, surrounded by high walls, armed guards, and electronic surveillance. But every fortress has its weak points. Gwen hunched over her multiple monitors, prepared to launch a cyber offensive on an unprecedented scale. This time, there would cartel communications across the entire city, severing their ability to coordinate the impending assault. Alina, meanwhile, rallied the community defense network. Volunteers from the neighborhoods, many of whom had lost loved ones or suffered under the cartel's terror, were trained and armed with makeshift weapons. ready to serve as lookouts, messengers, and rapid response support. Marco outlined the plan with the calm precision that had become his trademark. The operation would be a high-risk, high-reward strike aimed directly at the cartel's nerve center. Speed, surprise, and coordination were critical. Any mistake could lead to heavy casualties, not only among the team, but innocent civilians as well. The coming days were consumed with meticulous preparation and reconnaissance. Drone flights surveyed the command bunker from multiple angles, and satellite imagery was analyzed to identify patrol patterns, blind spots, and underground access points. Team members drilled their roles tirelessly. Contingency plans were created for every possible scenario: unexpected reinforcements, booby traps, or electronic countermeasures. Finally, on a moonless night, the strike team moved into position, moving like ghosts through the city's labyrinth and streets. They reached staging areas mere meters from the target. Marco's heart pounded quietly beneath his tactical vest, his breath controlled and even. The team's nerves were taut but steady, every member knowing the importance of the moment. Explosions shattered the silence as the assault began. Breaching charges detonated in perfect synchronization, blowing open walls and disabling security systems. The operation unfolded as a carefully choreographed symphony of destruction and precision. Team members swept through corridors, securing key rooms and disabling electronic nodes critical to the cartel's command and control. The battle was fierce and unrelenting. Gunfire echoed through concrete halls, and the stench of smoke filled the air. Marco finally came face to face with El Tiburon himself, the man who had haunted their fight from the shadows. Their confrontation was a deadly dance of skill and will, years of experience in tactical training clashing with brutal instinct. In the end, Marco's calm determination and strategic mind prevailed. El Tiburon was captured, his network fractured beyond repair, the cartel's grip on the city shattered. As the city exhaled a long-eyed sigh of relief, Marco quietly reflected on Thejani. His 3 words, the ones he had written before every major battle, echoed in his mind. Stay ready, always. Because in a city like this, peace is never guaranteed. But as long as Marco and his team stood vigilant, hope wouldn't end. Thank you for following this story. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and share your thoughts below. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments.